The Oklahoma Sooners just simply need to be more aggressive. I think the head coach agrees. We'll talk about that and so much more on today's episode of Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners. Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy over at prizepicks.com. My name is John Williams. You can follow me on Twitter at John9Williams. My buddy here is Josh Helmer. You can follow him on Twitter at JoshOnRef. You can also hear him Monday through Friday from 9 to noon on the KREF Sports app. And a happy Thursday morning to Texas Rangers fans and Texas Rangers fans only, including myself. So, Josh, I don't know if you caught much of the World Series, so I'm still kind of beaming over the Texas Rangers World Series win. Let's hope Oklahoma gets back on the winning side of things this week with a little bit more aggression in some better weather.
Yes, congratulations to the Texas Ranger fans out there, World Series champs. First time ever, and 12 years ago, the heartbreak, you can not totally forget about it, but it's repaired to a certain degree with a World Series championship finally in Ranger fans' back pockets. But enough of this tomfoolery. Congratulations to you all the same. The Oklahoma Sooners, yeah, they do need to be more aggressive. To me, it's kind of a fine line. Brent Venables understandably is answering those questions after the way last week did not end versus Kansas, and Dillon Gabriel is answering those questions, John, after the way that again last week did not end. And yet OU's coaching staff, yes, they need to be more aggressive. Jeff Lebby, throw the football, trust Dillon Gabriel to go win you a game as he's done throughout the rest of the season at times. And yet just feel the flow of the game a little bit better than you did a week ago, because, you can just numbers yourself to death on this thing. Oklahoma State, really any level of the defense is not on paper particularly good. Now they've been improved to some degree in the run defense category. I think they're 101st nationally coming into this thing. And meanwhile, they've kind of been middle of the pack run defense throughout Big 12 play. The course of Big 12 play, pass defense, okay, they rank 12th there. So it feels like, yeah, you should be aggressive and take some shots and attack that secondary. And yet again, I could talk myself into just see what the game is giving you a little bit. And if Oklahoma State wants to try and make you run the football, be effective. And in other opportunities, don't take the football away from Dillon Gabriel. So just feel the game out, unlike a week ago.
Yeah, and it reminded me a lot of the SMU game, in that you were so focused on running the football that until the game kind of got tight in that, late third, early fourth quarter, when SMU cut the lead to 3, did you finally start to open things up a little bit? Well, for some reason, I don't know the reason, Jeff Lebby decided not to open it up, even though this was a pretty tight ball game throughout. I mean, Oklahoma had to come back from a 14-0 deficit early on in this game, but you took the ball out of your best player's hand. And obviously, yes, the weather was a factor. Obviously, those first 2 pass plays where he really misses Austin Stogner bad in the flat and then throws the pick 6 because he's late on the throw. Maybe that has an impact and plays into the play calling mind of Jeff Lebby. But if that's all it took to get you to take the ball out of Dillon Gabriel's hands, that's not really an encouraging sign. I think you need to just trust the fact that the dude's been playing really good football all year long, and let your quarterback be aggressive and go down the field. And I think part of the reason we're so excited about what, this offense brings to the table this year is you've got a guy like Nick Anderson who has good size. He's playing good football. He can win down the field in a variety of ways. With that size, he can blow by guys with his route running ability and his speed, and he can make plays up in the air as well. Same for a guy like Jaden Gibson. So whatever the coverage is dictating, it shouldn't matter because you've got two guys that can win in 50-50 situations. In particular, Jaden Gibson has shown the ability to go win those 50-50 matchups. And we've talked about it multiple times on this show, and it was a big topic of discussion on the live show on Monday night, that Brennan Thompson, why can't we get him on the field a little bit more and get that speed element out there as well? And I mean, that speed is going to be a factor at some point, and it needs to kind of be a factor the rest of this season because you're not getting anywhere by just, really trying to methodically move the football down the field. You got to hit some big plays. And when this offense is at its best, it's because they're getting the ball downfield and hitting those big plays.
Do we see that from Oklahoma? I got the quote here. This is Brent Venables' quote. I think the opportunity was there, talking about lack of deep shots, lack of aggression by the offense. Quote, I think the opportunity was there. Wishing is not going to do anything, but we need to maintain an aggressive mentality. There's always that balance when you try to be efficient and protect the football, but at the same time, at the right time, take your shots. We've got good players who can run past people, go up, and make competitive plays. End quote from your head football coach, Brent Venables. Are we going to see Oklahoma do just that?
Well, I think partly because Jeff Lebby's so petty that he's going to play action pass deep ball on the first play of the game just to shut everybody up and be like, hey, yeah, I can be aggressive too, guys. But I mean, it's just going to be him saying, look, we're going to be more aggressive. But I think that's what the nature of this team is. What Brent Venables wants his team to be is an aggressive team. He doesn't want them playing defense on offense. He doesn't want them, playing 8 back in coverage all the time and prevent defense. No, he wants an attacking defense. He wants an attacking offense. That's who Brent Venables is. He's not one to lay back, and he's not one to play conservative. That's why we see him go for it on fourth down so often, because he believes that having the ball in his offense's hands is a good thing. And so Jeff Lebby needs to kind of match the mentality of his head coach a little bit more. And I've said it, and I'm really beginning to believe this, that Jeff Lebby's offensive system is just one that's designed to be safe, but that doesn't necessarily correlate with what his head coach wants to be. So Jeff Lebby needs to evolve a little bit and be willing to take more chances and get the ball down the field and push the ball down the field, because Dillon Gabriel has been really, really good getting the ball down the field past the sticks. I mean, when this team is attacking the 10 yards or more, they're really, really good. And they're really, really hard to beat.
And rethinking the horizontal game a little bit, right? I mean, the jet sweeps, we've talked about it. I mean, it's now become a little bit of a joke. It's Jet Lebby to some out there now. But and I'm not saying you totally get rid of them, because used a little bit more sparingly, who knows? Maybe that predictability goes down, and all of a sudden it can wind up being more effective for Oklahoma. Right now, results aren't good, but that doesn't mean that you can't attack the boundaries in other ways with skilled players, whether it's a toss to a running back or quick screen, bubble screen. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to get guys out in space one-on-one along the perimeter of a defense. So obviously that particular play not working. What you said about Jeff Lebby's just petty enough that it might be play action pass to start, I hope that's not the case. I don't totally – coaches sometimes get that way. I'm not saying totally that 1,000% Jeff Lebby's that way, but he was a little defiant after the whole Art Briles incident. And so it might be in his DNA a little bit. And I see this and hear this, not just from Oklahoma, but other coaches around the country, where they want you to believe that they're a heck of a lot smarter than you, the fans, sometimes. And he is maybe got a little bit of that defiant streak to him. And that's why I say, too, take what is there, feel the game out, because, it's in Jeff Lebby's defense to some degree here. There was a portion of last week, John, where they ran the football and they ran the football and they ran the football. And guess what? It was effective. You know why? Because that's what the defense was giving, and they couldn't stop it. And that was the feel of the game. Late, he lost the feel of the game, which was, we don't have Tawee Walker anymore, and I need to trust my quarterback to go win the game. So there is that balance of, don't get so defiant that all of a sudden now you turn around the next week in a press conference and you say, what do you want from me? I threw it 35 times this week.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's a matter of just being aware of what is going on in the game, what your personnel situation is like, what your defense is doing, and what's not available for you on the defensive side of the ball. You're asking your defense without Danny Stutzman and without Gentry Williams to stop a good Kansas offense. Again, it just showed poor personnel awareness by Jeff Lebby. But will he let Dillon Gabriel cook this week? I think most people expect this to be a big weekend for Dillon Gabriel. And we'll talk about why it's important to keep Dillon Gabriel at the centerpiece of this offense here after the break.
With the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball. We've been telling you, we're brought to you, by the way, by Prize Picks. It's the best spot for daily fantasy sports. And with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League over at Prize Picks, a league created specifically for combo projections. Works like this, for example, includes 2 or more players from different leagues. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a more or less than combo, 10.5 of 3-pointers made plus receptions. So kind of a fun way to play daily fantasy sports. They're constantly reinventing and again, keeping daily fantasy sports fun to play. And you can, as we always say, get your entry in 60 seconds or less. That makes it really, really easy if you are on the go. So check them out. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. One more time for you. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnCollege. Use code LockedOnCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. Daily fantasy sports made easy.
So the big question now is, if Jeff Lebby gets more aggressive, this is just a matter of, okay, get the ball in your quarterback's hands, because he's been arguably your best, most consistent player throughout the 2023 season, a reason why your offense is one of the best in the country. And when you only let him throw 19 times in that game against Kansas, it kind of sets you up to have to come back at the end, or have to, pick up a big third down or first down and not do it. But again, you hamstring your offense when you take it out of your quarterback's hands. And I don't think we see that again the rest of the season, because yes, okay, you want to make Kansas use their timeouts. At the same time, there's so much time on the clock. We've talked about it ad nauseum this week. This week, going into Stillwater, let Dillon Gabriel cook. Let him get back there on the fryer, on the grill, and serve up some tasty dimes to his wide receivers all game long. Yes, the running game is important. Yes, if Tawi Walker is back, you want to feed Tawi because he's playing so well. But you want Dillon Gabriel attacking this Oklahoma State Cowboys defense and helping you get chunk plays so that you're not having to go on 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 play drives for a 4-quarter game.
And again, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here and hitting the same drum, but enough of the waste downs, less jet sweeps. And when I say let Dillon Gabriel cook, I say give him more downs to play with. Right now, with this offense, John, you take opportunities away from Dillon Gabriel, from Nick Anderson, from Jaden Gibson, from Brendan Thompson, when a couple of those guys, you don't put them on the football field in favor of a Gavin Freeman, a Drake Stoops, and others, right? So the personnel decisions, I think, need to improve for Oklahoma at times. But then also, again, those plays that you call when they're time and time again, John, unsuccessful, you're taking opportunities away from Dillon Gabriel to do just that, to cook and to find Nick Anderson and to find Jalil Farouk and on and on and on, to find Drake Stoops, to find all these different targets, these wide receivers that we like. More conventional offensive downs, less of the sideline to sideline stuff. Just let Dillon Gabriel drop back. Let this team do what it's best at, which is pass protect, John. And Dillon Gabriel buy a little time and find open targets down the field.
Yeah, when they've been really humming, it's because they've been just running their offense. It's not been a lot of gimmicky gadget plays. They were really forcing the issue last week, trying to get things outside with jet sweeps and wide receiver runs out of the running back position. They were doing everything they could to get to the outside when Kansas was very willing. I mean, not willing, but was very vulnerable on the interior. And when the run game has been at its best, it's because they've been running between the tackles as opposed to trying to get things outside and force the issue. I'm not a big fan of wide receiver screens or bubble screens, but I'd rather run those than run a jet sweep, because the jet sweep, it really only works for you if teams aren't really expecting it. But it's become such a significant part of your offense that teams are scheming for. They're planning against it. And okay, do those wide runs allow you to hit more stuff on the inside? Yeah, that does help. But also, so does the wide receiver screen. You get guys having to play to the perimeter. It does help you down the middle of the field as well. So we need to see more just attacking the sticks, attack the first down marker on first down. Don't settle for, hey, we got 2 downs to get a 4th down if it's, 3rd down or whatever. No, go down the field, push the ball, get Drake Stoops at the first down marker, hit Nick Anderson, Jaleel Farouk on slants and RPOs. Let's see more of that stuff that has allowed this offense to be, the number 4 scoring offense in the country, the number 7 offense in total yards in the country. That's for the season. Let your best player, and I stand by this, Dillon Gabriel has been their best player all year long on offense. Let him be your best player and let him have the football in his hands, because when he's had the football in his hands, good things have happened, and Oklahoma has won 7 games. The one game where he didn't have more than 20 pass attempts, they lost.
Maybe, yeah. No, I mean, that right there tells you quite a bit, unfortunately. And oh, by the way, a healthy little number of those throws came late on the desperation drive for Oklahoma too. So 19 passes wasn't even really 19 passes effectively in the football game for Oklahoma. And I get it. The weather was a part of the equation, and yet Jason Bean, I think, throws 32 times in the game. So it was out there. There were plays to be had in the throw game. Oklahoma didn't do it. The crux of this conversation, and maybe this is rinse, wash, repeat from yours truly, do what you do best. Let your players do what they do best. That's the crux of this for me, John. You said something that was interesting. Okay, so the jet sweep or wide receiver screen, attacking that boundary. Okay, maybe that helps you on the inside running the football. Well, 2 things are true about this team, John. Number one, those plays aren't working that we're talking about. Okay, the jet sweep, the little bubble screen for the most part, that's not working, A. Okay, and B is you don't run the football all that well for the most part to begin with. So even the rationale of, oh, well, maybe this is going to open that up, practice what you preach, which as an offensive coordinator is, oh, my job is to best position this offense to go score points and get yards. Well, those items don't best position this offense to go score points and get yards, because right now you're not good at either of those 2 things for the most part.
And the other part of it is you're trying to trick the defense in those situations. When you're running a lot of those jet sweeps, it's just running misdirection to try and trick the defense. When you're the less talented team, you have to use a lot of misdirection in order to, take advantage of the talent difference, or to try and close the gap on the talent difference. When you're the more talented team, you dictate what happens out there on the field. When, again, I keep coming back to this, Oklahoma, they need to attack people. They need to attack teams. That's both with the running game and with the passing game. They don't need to sit back and try to throw everything at or behind the line of scrimmage. They got to get the ball down the field. They got to let Dillon Gabriel go. He's been really, really good this season. There's no reason to take the ball out of his hands. He hasn't killed you. Yeah, he's had a couple turnovers or a few turnovers, but it's not been like it was even a year ago. He hasn't had a game like the Baylor game where he had 3 first half interceptions. He's been really, really good throughout. And in crunch time in particular, whether it's Texas or SMU or the UCF game, in crunch time, he's been fantastic. You can't ask for anything better than what he's provided in crunch time. So now you got to trust him, not just in crunch time, but for 4 quarters, regardless of the circumstances, regardless of the situation. You got to trust your quarterback. I know that may be hard for some people to buy and to live with, But when he's playing as well as he is, you got to give him the chance to go win you a football game.
Yeah, I think most Oklahoma fans, after last week especially, get that and feel that. There's still some dissension, some detractors. The pick six doesn't help for Dillon Gabriel, but generally speaking, I think most people understand this offense right now for Oklahoma is throw first. And generally speaking, Dillon Gabriel, really over the last 2 years, save for the untimely inaccuracies of last season, which we spent, really all of the offseason talking about, he's been much more effective this year across the board, whether it's just general accuracy and taking care of the football. He's still been good. So, yes, let Dillon Gabriel throw the football. Let, again, your team do what it's best at, which is pass protect. And then let your skill guys, which, again, is one of the biggest strengths of this team, is your wide receivers. Let them go make plays. Rocket science, I know.
The 119th meeting of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State in Bedlam is starting to heat up with players talking on both sides of it. We'll get into what was said and what in the world it means for this weekend's game coming up next. But now's your time to get into the action with the NFL and NBA, NHL with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. What's the money line? Okay, go to FanDuel. Right now, Oklahoma is minus 245. Oklahoma State's plus 198. You bet $5 on either of those money lines and you win. You get $150 in bonus bets from FanDuel. That's free money over at FanDuel. Right now, Oklahoma is a 5.5-point favorite over the Oklahoma State Cowboys. You like that action or anything else going on? You want to get in on the NFL action this season? Go to FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel is an official partner of the NFL. With Bedlam heating up, there's a lot of talk on either side of things. Mike Gundy earlier in the week talked about how, okay, maybe it's not really as much of a rivalry as it once was. Brian Bosworth had things to say. Let's meet up at the 50-yard line. Isaiah Coe came out and just said, I straight up hate those guys, basically. While fans may not consider Oklahoma State, quote unquote, a rival, and it doesn't have the same feeling that Texas does. But man, if you're from the state of Oklahoma, I know a lot of Oklahoma fans are from the state of Oklahoma, you don't want Oklahoma State to win. So to me, it's a rivalry. Like it is. There's bragging rights. It's a huge game. Maybe not, again, as big as Texas, but it's huge. It's bigger than Kansas. It's bigger than, going to, play TCU or West Virginia. It's arguably the second most important game on your schedule because it's the in-state rivalry. It's going to have regional recruiting impact and repercussions. You got to win this game.
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear from more of the old-time players and such, because my interpretation was, and I could be dead wrong on this, I didn't live it. My interpretation would be that really on the Oklahoma side, even back then, it wasn't considered this great rivalry. It was, the in-state game. Obviously, you didn't want to lose, but hey, maybe it was a little more contentious than I've been led to believe. And obviously, Brian Bosworth, I think it's kind of fun that he sort of played back into it with Mike Gundy. I got to add something this week in the final Bedlam. Our man, Mr. Dalton Cooper, what do we think about his remarks?
I find them interesting. So this is an Oklahoma State offensive lineman. He said, I'd also say that all the OU fans that are there, maybe about 95% of them didn't go to college at OU. These are fans from his hometown in Prague, Oklahoma. But 100% of the OSU fans that are in my town, all of them went to OSU. And then he said they're referring to Oklahoma fans in Prague are just a bunch of bandwagoners for sure. And if you follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sooners, you saw my response was, well, at least Oklahoma is good enough to have a bandwagon. But I don't know, man. It's fun. I think adding to the rivalry a little bit, adding a little bit of extra, emotion, a little more edge, attitude is going to be good for the game. But man, I don't know. I'm not from the state of Oklahoma. I've moved here, and have ties to it for the last 15, 16 years or so. But my sense is that Oklahoma fans are just passionate about Oklahoma football. And obviously the long, 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 long history of success plays into that, where it's, generations of people are Oklahoma fans, whether they went to the university or not. You don't have to be from Dallas to like the Dallas Cowboys, because maybe your dad was from Dallas and he liked the Dallas Cowboys, but you live in New York City now. Who cares about how people become a fan? Not everybody's journey to a team is the same. You don't have to go to a school. My alma mater doesn't have a football program. The University of Texas at Arlington does not have a football program, hasn't had one since 1988. They're not going to get a football program anytime soon, because every time I ask, they decline. But so Oklahoma's my team. I'm an Oklahoma fan, and I'm going to be an Oklahoma fan. I'm not a Sooner born. I'm not a Sooner bred. I'm a Sooner wed. And when I die, I'll be a Sooner dead. So this is my team. I think the gatekeeping to fandom is one of the stupidest things in sports.
Yeah, it is. And obviously, Dalton Cooper, the receipts, the Sooner Nation army was out collecting all sorts of receipts. It just looks terrible for him, who,
Yeah.
oh, by the way, clearly was an Oklahoma fan 5 years ago and hated the color orange. It's like, man, that's a bad guy to be at the front of the band playing the Oklahoma State playbook, which is, nobody went to the school. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
there's plenty of Oklahoma State fans, by the way, that didn't attend OSU either. So silly, but I'm honestly, to some degree, just kind of here for it, because it makes this week maybe a little more fun. Who knows?
That's right. And, it's the old Barry Switzer quote too. Like, Oklahoma State, they want to kick your butt because those guys wanted to come to Oklahoma and didn't get an offer to go there. So, I like a little bit of heat, especially in an in-state rivalry game. Give me all the heat, man. It's going to be fun. The players, they're going to be focused on the game, especially Oklahoma's players, because they got to bounce back. They need to win this game to keep their Big 12 title aspirations and the college football playoff hopes alive. So they don't need any extra motivation. It's more for the fans. It provides more fun. It's the WWE promo of this thing, where it's the guys getting out there and providing a little bit of extra heat, trying to get this thing built up a little bit more. And man, I really hope it, listen, as a football fan, I hope it's a good game. As an Oklahoma fan, I hope they kick Oklahoma State's butt by like 50. But this is going to be a memorable bedlam. I just have a feeling that it's going to be a memorable bedlam one way or the other. Hopefully it's for the good guys.
I would be fine with it being a memorable bedlam for about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
But I do hear what you're saying. It has perhaps that feel about it. Oklahoma State's playing good football now. The animosity, all the different things that'll be wrapped up in it. Good for Cooper. I'm not going to knock the kid too much for playing to the crowd a little bit. Hey, you're in Stillwater, playing in a honky tonk bar. Well, you better play some country music, right? He played country music for the crowd of Oklahoma State. And hey, that's from the OSU fan playbook. So, hats off to him. No big deal.
That's right. He's got drinks for life when he drops down in the dive bar in Stillwater. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Follow Josh on Twitter at Josh on Ref. The show is at Locked On Sooners. I am at John 9 Williams. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on every platform. Until next time, where we'll have our predictions for this game. We'll get you ready with our keys to the game. He's Josh Helmer. I'm John Williams. Boomer Sooner.